Hi, Michael Paiste here for another part of my series on checking out all the gear I own, all the crazy gongs and bells and that. And today we'll be looking at two very special gong makers, Steve Hubback and Michael Paiste, right here on It's Cuppa Time. Today, looking at two very special gong makers, two of the original one-man cymbal and gong makers out there. Steve Hubback, who is from Wales, but is sort of a migratory guy and has lived all over Europe and Scandinavia, and Michael Paiste from Switzerland. And with both of these, there's some really interesting stories I'd like to tell. But first, let's look at Steve Hubback. I came across his creations in the late 1980s through some of his recordings, and I co-authored a book with British drummer Trevor Taylor. The book is called Percussion Profiles, and we interviewed 25 of the most creative, at least at that time, most creative drummers and percussionists out there, playing a lot of avant-garde and creative music. And Steve was one of the people interviewed for the book. Later on, I interviewed Steve for a major feature in Modern Drummer magazine. And I don't know, I was just captured by his creations right away. So Steve had a website, and he had pictures up of a lot of his creations, and I saw this wonderful looking gong on there. And I contacted Steve and I said, "Is that gong for sale?" He said, "Yes, it is." And I said, "I want to buy it." I hadn't even heard it, but knowing Steve's reputation and all, and just, I knew it would be fine. It would be a great sounding gong. So I said, "I want to buy that gong. Let's do this." And this is way back, and this was before all PayPal and all this easy ways of getting money around. So it's like, well, we figured out how to get the payment to him. And it's like, well, shipping it, what are we going to do? And he eventually had a friend who was coming to New York. So his friend carried the gong with him to New York and then posted it to my home here. And that is this small gong here. And take a look at it. This has a distinction of being made out of brass. Steve, like many, as I said before, many of the solo gong makers out there work with scrap metal, whatever metal they could get a hold of. So this is made of a piece of scrap brass. And this is made in 2002. And the inscription, I will read here that Steve has on there, gives it a real unique distinction. It says, "First gong ever made in Iceland." Steve was married to an Icelandic woman for a while, and he lived over in Iceland. So he was plying his craft there, hand-making cymbals and gongs. So this is the very first gong ever made in Iceland. And it's a lot of craftsmanship in it. Even for one of his early creations. You can see a wealth of hammer marks in there. It's all hand-shaped, and he's got it shaved circular here and spokes in the center. It's really a distinctive looking gong, so perhaps you can see why I was intrigued by it. And it's a very small gong. I believe it's about 18 inches in diameter, but it has a deep tone owing to it being made out of brass. Brass made into gongs tends to be much deeper sound than nickel, silver, or bronze. A little heavier mallet here. So it has a fairly deep and explosive sound for a small gong. I like this one a lot and use it in various solo projects and improvised music work with other musicians. And it fits into so much. And again, it's got that very distinctive voice to it. Let's look at another one of his gongs. I also have a small tuned gong. Let me get that. I have this very small, I believe it's a nickel silver tuned gong, Steve Hubback, and it says Iceland 2002. So this is also made in Iceland, and the note is D sharp 5. It's pretty much modeled after the old Peiste tuned gongs. Wonderful sounding little gong here. Very nice focused tune note, and Steve has really become an excellent tuned gong maker. I've always wanted to get a set of his tuned gongs, like a small pentatonic set, and I had tried to get a set that he had made before, but then somebody beat me to it, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But one of these days I will hopefully have Steve make me a small set of tuned gongs, pentatonic set. His work is excellent. So that's Steve Hubback, and he makes so many different amazing creations. You may have seen photos of some of his gongs like bat wings and other shapes. And he said he gets these ideas in his dreams, and then he comes up and makes them out of his dreams. So he's got dragon wings and faces and all kinds of unique shapes. He also makes some amazing sound sculptures and bells and that. So I'll put a link to Steve below. But do check him out. And if you have a chance to play any of his creations, please do. You know, if you ever find someplace that has them, because they're amazing. I have a bunch of his bells and little triangle Burma bell type creations in that. Okay, the next gong maker, somebody who was very important to me, is Michael Paiste. Now, Michael Paiste is the son of Robert Peiste, who along with Thomas Peiste were the two brothers who led the company in the 70s and 80s and on. And really, they were the driving force behind all the amazing creativity that Peiste had in the 1970s. The sound creation cymbals, the sound creation gongs, and so many amazing bells and other bronze instruments. Now, Michael worked for Peiste for quite a while. He certainly apprenticed there. But he had his own ideas on sounds and that, and he left the company probably about 25 years ago to go out on his own. It was purely philosophical differences. Whereas Peiste likes to recreate everything the same. You can break an 18-inch 2002 crash cymbal, you can buy a new one, and it will sound nearly identical to the one you broke. Same thing with a gong. You can buy a 32-inch symphonic gong, buy another one, and it will be almost identical. So that's Peiste's philosophy. Michael lives in a total different world where he just wants to make one-off type creations. He's really into sound exploration. And while working at Peiste, he helped develop some of their amazing cymbals, like the traditional line and I believe the dark energy line, and many of the others. He worked in sound development. But he left and went on his own, has his own workshop, and makes amazing cymbals and gongs. Now, I saw him online. I saw some of his creations online many years ago. This might have been about 2001, 2002, quite a while ago, 20 years or so. And there was a Swiss music store where he was sort of working at, and they were selling his creations. He would hand hammer snare drum shells, and he would do cymbal modifications for people, and he also had some of his own gong and cymbal creations. And I saw some of them on the website and heard them, and it was like, these are amazing instruments. I would like to get a hold of some of these. So I wrote to Michael in care of the music store and didn't hear anything back at all. I remember I even sent a couple CDs along, you know, introducing myself, saying, hey, I make this solo percussion music. I would really like to have you make some gongs for me. And years went by and no reply. Michael's not the easiest guy to get a hold of. I don't know if it's just because he's reclusive or what, but he's not the easiest guy to get a hold of. So years went by, and one day my phone rings and I pick it up, and the voice on the other side says, hi, this is Michael Paiste. I want to play something for you. And I go, what? And he puts on one of the CDs I sent to him. And he says, I have these gongs. They go great with your music. And he started playing these gongs along with my CD over the phone line from Switzerland. And it was pretty insane. And I'm listening and go, wow, those do sound great. And they work out really great. He says, yeah, you really should have these gongs. These are great gongs. They really fit your music. I love what you're doing. So we formed a nice friendship from that and spoke on the phone often, all about gongs and metals and things. He taught me so much about metal and how things are made. And I don't use the term very lightly, but Michael is a genius. He is certainly a genius in sound. He knows what he is doing. He's just an amazing gong and cymbal maker. So we put together a deal. I got payment to him. He made a big crate and boxed up these 3 gongs and sent them to me. And they're just crazy gongs. They're his own design. He does make some sort of chow type gongs. He's made them for people, but like all these small gong and cymbal makers, they generally prefer to make their own creations. So I have 4 of Michael's gongs because he sent me another one later on. And they are the most wonderful, unique sounding instruments. So let's take a look at them. This first one is a Wasser gong or water gong, his take on a water gong. And it's just an amazing looking gong. There are so many hammer marks in it. One of Michael's trademarks is a flat edge on his gongs. So this has a very thin flat edge, maybe ½ an inch. And then it slopes up and then slopes back down to the center. And there's a very, very shallow boss in here. I mean, you can hardly see it. It's very shallow. But this is a water gong, and it has a really unique character. It can be very explosive on the edge. More focused in the center. Very, very unique sound. Another one of his designs, very similar. This is a Volcano Gong, and both of these are 23½ inches. It has the flat edge. It slopes up, and it goes back down. It slopes up again, and then it has this reverse boss. So, named Volcano because it looks like you are up in the air looking down at a volcano. And this one where this has a rather harmonious sound. This one, the Volcano, has a very dissonant sort of sound. I believe these are both made out of nickel silver. They're just very unique, his own designs. I've used these a lot in my improvised and especially my solo percussion work. I've taken these on tour many times when I was touring a big solo drum and percussion and gong show back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s. I have another Volcano. This is a smaller one. I believe this is B8 bronze, if I recall him telling me. And it's more like a sound plate than a gong. It's very thick and heavy. And I tend to use it more as an actual sound plate. But that one he sent me later. And it has that distinctive volcano shape. Let's take a look at it here. So this is his design, the Volcano. There, you can see it perfectly in the light here. Flat edge, goes up, and then it goes down, and then we have this raised center portion with a reverse boss on it. And there you can see the reversed boss. That is a Volcano Gong. Now the third of the original ones he sent me is this one, which is a 20-inch, very thin nickel-silver wind gong. And classical percussion players go crazy over this gong. If they come to my concerts or performances, they always ask me, what is that gong? Because it has such a unique sound. Again, we have the very flat edge, a raised part here going down, and then a very small forward boss on that one, not a reversed boss. So it's similar to the Volcano shape, only a forward boss instead of a reversed boss. And what the boss does, it adds some bass tone to the sound, whereas often small wind gongs are just all shh, and there's no body to it. This actually gives it some body. But it has that big oriental sort of crash character and a small, compact sort of gong. I like to use this one when I need a very quick yet lighter crash sound, something that's going to crash and dissipate right away, and this fits the bill. And it fades out. It doesn't hold on as much as a bronze wind gong would. So that's a Michael Paiste wind gong, Volcano gongs, and water gong, and a Steve Hubback Iceland gong, a variation on a chow, and Steve Hubback tuned gong, variation on the old Peiste tuned gongs. So I thought I would do a short demo performance, give you a better idea of how all these instruments sound. But first, I've also got two small bells. Let me take one down here. These are small aluminum, sort of a Burma bell, made by Steve Hubback. They have a really nice sonorous tone. Because they are aluminum, they don't have the power of a bronze Burma bell, but they have a really nice character. Okay, so let's just play something. I have the 4 Michael Paiste gongs. I have the Steve Hubback Iceland gong. And then over here I have the 26-inch Grata Sonora deep gong and the 22-inch custom tone mirror steel gong. So we'll just play a little something and see what happens. So there you go, just a short demonstration of some of the specialty gongs I've had in the past couple videos. Thanks.